Welcome to video number 3 in our fractions unit. At this point, we have reviewed some basics of fractions, learned the golden rule, learned different ways to find a common denominator between two fractions so we could compare them, and learned how to simplify fractions using the greatest common factor. This video will focus on adding and subtracting fractions. When adding and subtracting fractions, it is important to remember that the denominators must always be the same before you can continue adding or subtracting. You can use either of the methods we discussed in video 2 to accomplish this, either by multiplying the denominators or by finding the least common denominator. Then the operation is performed only on the numerator. Let's start with an example. Take a moment to pause the video and see if you can begin by finding a common denominator. We have 2/4, and we're adding it to 1/2. Let's first try using the multiplication method here. We start by multiplying the denominators together to get our new denominator. We multiply 4 times 2, and 2 times 4, we get our new denominator of 8. Now using our golden rule to make sure we have not changed the value of our fractions, do the same thing to the top. We end up with 4/8 and 4/8. Now we perform the addition on only the numerators. It's a little bit easier to see when you put them side by side. We know our denominator is going to stay the same, and we add the numerators together to get 8/8. Remember, this can be simplified to 1 because the top and the bottom numbers are the same. But pay attention to whether the question you're dealing with wants your answer in its simplest form, although it's always a good habit to simplify at the end. Now let's try a subtraction problem just to make sure we've gotten the hang of this before moving on. Take a moment to pause the video and see if you can work this one out on your own. So we are using 9/10 subtracting 3/5. This time I'll start by finding the least common denominator. So some multiples of 10 are 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on. Some multiples of 5 would be 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on. And we can already see that the least common denominator is going to be 10 between both those fractions. As you get used to doing problems like this, you can usually tell what your least common denominator will be quickly if you notice that the smaller denominator goes into the larger one evenly. So then we use our golden rule again. We have 9/10 and 3/5. We're turning those into something over 10. This one didn't change on top. This one we had to multiply by 2 to get to 10, so we do the same thing to the numerator to get 6/10. Now we can easily put these side by side and subtract. We know our denominator will stay the same. 9 minus 6 is 3. So 3/10 is our answer here. And this is already simplified, but like I said, if it looks like it needs to be simplified further, it's always good to get in that habit. So in this video, we learned how to add and subtract fractions after making sure the denominators are the same using the golden rule and ensuring that we only perform the operation on the numerator. Please continue to video 4, where we will discuss how to multiply and divide fractions next.